The shock. It was a sunny day in August, one of those days that seemed perfect. The sky was a bright, cloudless blue, the sun warm but not oppressive, and a cool breeze drifted through the open windows of my bedroom. I was lying in bed, feeling relaxed and content, chatting with my boyfriend, who was sitting beside me. We were laughing, enjoying the simple pleasures of the day. Everything felt peaceful, calm, until it didn't. The pain hit me out of nowhere, a sudden, sharp shock in my stomach that took my breath away. My hand instinctively went to my abdomen, pressing down on the hard, bloated surface. Something felt wrong, deeply, disturbingly wrong. The pain wasn't just discomfort, it was a searing, twisting agony that seemed to come from deep within, radiating out like a shockwave thought. "Are you okay?" My boyfriend asked, concern immediately replacing the smile on his face. "Default, I don't know," I managed to stammer, my voice trembling. My stomach, it hurt so bad. I tried to brush it off, to convince myself it was just a cramp or something I ate, but deep down, I knew better. The pain was different this time, more intense, more terrifying. It wasn't just the familiar ache I'd grown accustomed to. It was something far worse, something that felt like it was tearing me apart from the inside. Text. You see, I had been living with adenomyosis for years. It's a condition where the tissue that normally lines the inside of the uterus grows into the muscular wall of the uterus. It had turned my periods into a monthly nightmare, with pain so intense that some days I could barely get out of bed. But this was different. This was a pain I had never felt before, not even at the worst of times. You see, I had been living with adenomyosis for years. It's a condition where the tissue that normally lines the inside of the uterus grows into the muscular wall of the uterus. It had turned my periods into a monthly nightmare, with pain so intense that some days I could barely get out of bed. But this was different. This was a pain I had never felt before, not even at the worst of times. My stomach felt hard as a rock, and there was a smell, a sickly, nauseating odor that seemed to seep out of my very skin. It was the smell of something wrong, something that shouldn't be there. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me, so strong that I thought I might vomit. My head was spinning, my vision blurring as I struggled to stay focused. "I think I need to take a bath," I said, my voice barely a whisper. I was grasping at straws, hoping that the warm water might somehow soothe the pain. "Are you sure? Maybe you should lie down," my boyfriend suggested, his voice filled with concern. I need to do something. "The pain is unbearable," I replied, my words coming out in gasps. I dragged myself into the bathroom, every step sending a new wave of pain through my body. My hands trembled as I turned on the water, filling the tub with warm water. Maybe it would help, I thought. Maybe it would take the edge off the pain. Before getting in, I grabbed the bottle of ibuprofen from the medicine cabinet. I shook out 2 of the 800 milligrams pills, and then, almost on autopilot, took 2 more 1000 milligrams paracetamol tablets. I knew it was a lot, probably too much, but I was desperate. The pain was consuming me, and I would have done anything to make it stop. I eased myself into the tub, the warm water lapping against my skin. But instead of relief, all I felt was a deep, gnawing agony that seemed to intensify with every passing second. I leaned back, closing my eyes, trying to focus on my breathing, but it was no use. The pain was too much. My boyfriend sat by the side of the tub, his face a mask of worry. "Maybe we should pray," he suggested, his voice gentle but firm. I could see the concern in his eyes, his desire to help, but I also felt a surge of frustration. The pain was unbearable, and I knew that prayer alone wouldn't be enough. I needed help, real, immediate help. "No," I said, my voice weak but insistent. "Please, just call 112. I need to go to the hospital." He hesitated, his hand hovering over his phone as if he wasn't sure what to do. I could see the conflict in his eyes, the fear of what might happen. But the pain was too much for me to bear any longer. "Please," I begged, tears welling up in my eyes. "Call 112. I can't take this anymore." He nodded then, quickly dialing the emergency number. The seconds felt like hours as we waited, the pain growing worse with every passing moment. I could barely focus, my vision blurring as I fought to stay conscious. I heard him talking to the operator, his voice tight with fear, and then, finally, he said they were on their way. The wait for the ambulance felt like an eternity. Every second was agony, my body racked with pain that seemed to grow more intense with each passing moment. I clung to the edge of the tub, trying to breathe through the pain, but it was no use. It felt like my insides were being torn apart, like something was clawing its way out of me. When the paramedics arrived, I could barely keep my eyes open. They lifted me out of the tub, the movement sending a fresh wave of pain through my body. I cried out, the sound barely more than a whimper as I collapsed into their arms. "We're here to help," one of the paramedics said, his voice calm and reassuring. "We're going to give you something for the pain, and then we'll get you to the hospital." They gave me an injection of painkillers, and for a brief moment, the pain seemed to dull, the sharp edges softening just enough for me to catch my breath. They lifted me onto the stretcher, strapping me in securely before wheeling me out of the bathroom and down the hallway. My boyfriend followed closely behind, his face pale and drawn. I could see the guilt in his eyes, the regret that he hadn't called for help sooner. But there was no time for blame, no time for anything but the desperate hope that I would make it to the hospital in time. The ride in the ambulance was a blur of lights and sirens, the pain still gnawing at me despite the medication. The paramedics monitored my vitals, their faces serious as they worked to keep me stable. I could hear them talking, their voices low and urgent, but I couldn't make out the words. All I could focus on was the pain, the relentless, crushing pain that refused to let go. When we arrived at the hospital, they rushed me into the emergency room. Doctors and nurses surrounded me, their hands moving quickly as they assessed my condition. I could barely keep my eyes open, the pain and exhaustion dragging me down into darkness. "What's wrong?" one of the doctors asked, his voice calm but urgent. "My stomach. The pain is unbearable," I gasped, clutching my abdomen. They examined me quickly, their faces growing more serious with each passing moment. One of the doctors pressed on my abdomen, and I screamed, the pain shooting through me like a lightning bolt. "We need to get her into surgery immediately," the doctor said, his voice grim. "It's a strangulated hernia. Her intestines are trapped." The words barely registered as they prepared me for surgery. The room spun around me, and I could hear my boyfriend's voice telling me it would be okay, that they would take care of me. But all I could focus on was the pain, the relentless, crushing pain that consumed every part of me. As they wheeled me into the operating room, the lights above blurring into streaks of white, I felt a sense of dread settle over me. The pain was so intense that I could barely breathe, my heart pounding in my chest as if it might burst. I could hear the doctors talking, their voices distant and muffled, like they were underwater. Then, everything went dark. The recovery. I woke up slowly, the world coming back into focus in bits and pieces. The first thing I noticed was the absence of pain. It was gone, replaced by a dull ache in my abdomen, but nothing compared to what I had felt before. I blinked, trying to make sense of where I was. The bright lights, the sterile smell, the beeping of machines, it all told me I was in a hospital room. My throat was dry, and when I tried to speak, it came out as a croak. A nurse appeared beside me, her smile kind and reassuring. "You're awake. How are you feeling?" "Better. I think," I managed to say. "What happened?" "You had emergency surgery," she explained. "You had a strangulated hernia in your navel. Your intestines were trapped, and it was cutting off blood flow. We had to operate quickly to save you." The memories came flooding back, the pain, the fear, the moment when I thought I might not make it. I swallowed hard, feeling a wave of emotion rise within me. "You're lucky you came in when you did," the nurse continued. "A few more hours, and it could have been much worse." I nodded, the reality of how close I had come to something far worse sinking in. My boyfriend was by my side then, his hand gently squeezing mine. "You're okay," he said softly, his eyes filled with relief. "You're going to be okay." Tears welled up in my eyes as I realized how close I had come to losing everything. The pain, the fear, the uncertainty, it had all been so overwhelming. But now, lying here, I felt a sense of gratitude wash over me. Gratitude for the doctors, for the paramedics, for the fact that I was still here. The days that followed were a blur of recovery. The pain slowly faded as my body began to heal. The doctors told me I would need time to fully recover, but that I was going to be okay. The hernia had been repaired, and my intestines were no longer trapped. But the experience had left a mark on me, a reminder of how fragile life could be, how quickly everything could change. I had been living with adenomyosis for years, enduring pain that most people couldn't even imagine. But this had been different. This had been a brush with something far darker, far more dangerous. As I lay in that hospital bed, I promised myself that I would never take another day for granted. Life was precious, and it could be taken away in an instant. But I was still here, still breathing, and that was something to be grateful for. Adenomyosis had already taught me to live with pain, to find strength in the face of adversity. But now, after surviving this ordeal, I felt stronger than ever before. I had faced my worst nightmare and come out the other side, scarred but alive. And as I drifted off to sleep, the pain a distant memory, I knew that no matter what life threw at me, I could handle it. I had survived the shock, and I would continue to survive, one day at a time.